The next bill on the calendar is House File 5040. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 5040, number 2 on the calendar for today, an act relating to retirement, the second engrossment.
There are amendments at the desk. If there are no objections, we will let the author explain the bill before we act on amendments. To the author of the bill, Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House File 5040 is the 2024 Pension and Retirement Supplemental Budget and Policy Bill. This bill contains the entire work of the bipartisan, bicameral Legislative Commission on Pensions and Retirement. It is great to consider this bill, which significantly supports Minnesota's public workers on May Day, an internationally recognized holiday for workers. This is the third consecutive year that this legislature has fought for and received a separate budget target for pensions. This funding, which was fought for by our state workers, commission members, and leadership of both parties and both chambers, demonstrates that every one of us understands the importance of a secure retirement. Our bill spends the educator pension line of the budget agreement that totals $31.458 million. We spent it in 3 appropriations. $28.4 million will be appropriated to the Teachers Retirement Association in order to move the effective date for the change to teachers of normal retirement age from 65 to 66 from July 1st of 2025 to July 1st of 2024. $1.5 million will be appropriated to the St. Paul Teachers Retirement Fund Association to provide an employee contribution decrease for the next 2 years. And $1.4 million will be appropriated to the Minnesota Individual Retirement Plan, or IRAP, to TRA transfer accounts to ensure Minnesota state employees who were incorrectly not given the option to elect into a TRA pension the ability to do so and support the transfer of their retirement account. This solution comes from the IRAP to TRA work group we passed last year that diligently worked in the interim. This bill also makes a number of important policy changes that will strengthen and further solidify Minnesotans' retirement prospects, including integrate the important changes made by the state auditor's 2024 volunteer firefighter work group to support our volunteer firefighters retirement associations, ensuring TRA and St. Paul Teachers Plan members can continue working to aid our state's workforce shortage, codify a program that Minnesota State Patrol members can use to continue working for their unit until age 60 without being penalized by earning caps, permitting home and community-based service employees to participate in the Secure Choice Retirement Program, allowing all workers to count student loan payments as the employee's contribution to retirement savings to receive the employer match for their retirement benefit, protecting state appropriations for our public pension plans by changing the look back for full funding of the plan from 1 year to 3 years for the direct state aids are not turned off for plans if there is a short-term investment return bump, and matching the Employee Retirement Association Correctional Plan benefit multiplier to the statewide correctional plan at 2.2% in order to keep our local correctional employees benefit package competitive with the statewide plan. This bill also contains a number of technical changes that the LCPR and pension staff have spent significant time reworking this year. We conform our state retirement statutes to federal requirements under Secure 2.0 Act of 2022. Provide for a cleanup of workers' compensation offset language in PARA and bring the PARA defined contribution plan into federal compliance. This bill contains provisions from nearly every member of the LCPR and others from outside of the commission, including Representatives Nadeau, Chaub, Berg, O'Driscoll, Nelson, Stevenson, Frederick, Moeller, Beckerfin, Tabke, Feist, and Purcell, and Senators Pappas, Frentz, Rasmussen, Nelson, Westland, Seeberger, Gustafson, and House-Child. And so I know that there are some amendments here today, and I will save my thank yous for the third reading. So, Madam Speaker, that's the summary of the bill.
Members, I want to remind members to take your conversations to the alcove. It can get quite noisy up here. There is an amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Herr moves to amend House File number 5040, the second engrossment. The amendment is coded A1.
I recognize the author of the amendment, Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment does 2 things. The first part of the amendment, state aid for local firefighters. This is calculated, and what we do with this is the change helps the Revenue Department not have to recalculate 2024 direct state aid. The second part of this is concurring with the Senate. It is a technical fix that at the suggestion of Senate fiscal analysts and revisers, they made this recommendation. as that dollars need to be rounded off to the nearest thousands of dollars, and so this is just a technical change to bring all of this in line. And I ask for a green vote on this, Madam Speaker.
Discussion to the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor of the A1 amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. There's another amendment at the desk. The clerk will report the amendment.
Schultz moves to amend House File Number 5040, the second engrossment as amended. The amendment is coded -8A.
To the author of the amendment, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The 8A amendment adds a little bit more clarifying language, just a few more essentially restrictions around the benefits that would be applied to the Minnesota State retirement systems. And those specific restrictions are to ensure that nobody who is here in our state, in our country illegally would be considered as an employee. And so that is my motion, Madam Speaker.
Discussion. Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Representative Schultz, so I know you're newer to this body, and I'm sorry, did you ask me to yield, or are you done with your, oh, okay, so I'm just talking to the bill now. All right, to the amendment. Okay, got it. Sorry, somebody was talking to me while I was trying to listen to this. I know that you're newer here, so maybe there's, I just want to share with the body that the Pension Commission actually
Point of order.
State your point in order.
Madam Speaker, all members have an election certificate and shall be treated equal regardless of the seniority here. I would like to, well, except for one member. And it would be good for the Speaker to remind the members that.
Representative Kosnick, I didn't hear a rule, but that is duly noted. Representative Herr.
And my apologies, Madam Speaker, because this is not to talk about seniors, to give Representative Schultz some backgrounds, that pensions is actually a bipartisan, bicameral bill, a commission, and so when it comes out of the commission, it's usually already agreed upon, and so we don't generally amend it, but I will explain why this amendment is actually not good for the bill as well. So this is just so the rest of the body understands that we don't usually ever put amendments onto it unless it's technical fixes, because there is already agreement upon both bodies and both parties. So what I'm going to say first is that Representative Schultz's amendment does two things. The first part is it prohibits undocumented workers from enrolling in the MSRR plan, which is unnecessary. Only state employees can enroll in the MSRS plan, and all state employees are required to complete an I-9 employment form verifying that they are citizens or authorized to work in the state. So his amendment is actually unnecessary. The second part of this is that it deletes a provision in the bill allowing visa holders to enroll in the state plan and to purchase service credits for previous years when they were prohibited from participating in the plan. The provision is required so the MSRS plan is compliant with federal law. This is not a state law. This is to comply with federal law. State pension plans cannot discriminate against visa holders in retirement plan participation. So I recommend a no vote on this amendment.
Further discussion. Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd request a roll call.
Seeing 50 hands, there will be roll call. Further discussion. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Carroll.
Here you go.
Carroll, no.
Carroll, no. Howard.
Howard, no.
Howard, no. Cagle.
Cagle, no.
Cagle, no.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 58 ayes and 69 nays, the motion does not prevail and the amendment is not adopted. There are no further amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 5040, as amended.
Third reading. Discussion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. I'm only going to point out, one or two things about this bill, and I thank Representative Hansen for what he said at his third reading when he closed the last bill. One thing I really appreciate about pensions, I really appreciate the approach that the chair takes in letting me kind of go down paths, and I think that that's an important thing, especially for people who are new. And she gave me a lot of leash to work on an issue that I found important, and I really appreciated that. And there's things in this bill that I don't love, but there's a lot of really good things in this bill, and this bill really is a technical bill, and I'm happy to support it. And I think, and I recommend everybody vote green on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further discussion? The member from Stearns, Representative O'Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I want to, again, underscore some important provisions that are in this bill. We have had our Minnesota law enforcement officials and public safety officials under a lot of public pressure these days for performing the job that they do. And I want to thank the State Patrol's Trooper Association for working with the Pension Commission to come up with a way to help with people who are retiring from the State Patrol but still have so much more to give and are willing to give back to the people in the state of Minnesota. Just a quick little history lesson. In the state of Minnesota, troopers are mandated by state law to retire no later than reaching age 60. And many of the troopers from our studies show that they leave the profession at age 55. Many of them would like to stay around and mentor other troopers as they're coming in and working to continue to make Minnesota a safe place. We have found a way to be able to do that, to preserve their benefit, and to also allow them to be a part of the active force in law enforcement here in the state of Minnesota. Another thing that I think is rather important in here is that we've heard from teacher groups and associations about wanting to revisit the retirement age for teachers, and we were able to accomplish bringing that down by 1 year. I know that that doesn't seem like a lot if you're a younger teacher, but it is showing that the legislature does recognize and does support readdressing some of those issues for teachers. Can't do it this year, time, money, but we certainly have our eye on that. And as is always the case, we get a chance to review different statutes and update and clarify items and the classification of employees as their job description changes. Members, you should feel very comfortable, and the Minnesota public should feel very comfortable as well, that we have a strong bipartisan and bicameral group of people who are working on the Pension Commission. We meet at 8:30 every Monday morning, and we have members who are on the commission from all parts of the state. And I mean, some of those members have to give up the time with their families, risk weather coming down to be able to make sure that they are here at an 8:30 a.m. meeting. And they do it because the commitment that the public officials, like the police officers, the teachers, and others that I've mentioned. Because we made promises to these folks, we want to be able to continue to stay engaged and to keep those promises to those individuals. And so, members, I strongly encourage a yes vote on the 2024 pension bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Dakota, Representative Berg.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Just a really heartfelt thank you to our chair. My first term here, I was also on the Pension Commission. We met on a Tuesday night by Zoom because it was COVID, so I get that. But it was almost like the commission was a little bit of an afterthought. And I know how hard our chair fought to get it to be a regular committee. I don't love 8:30 a.m. on Monday, but it's an honor to be in the work to make sure that our workers get to build the legacy they deserve after public service. I know she fought very hard to get an unheard of target this year for our workers, so I'm deeply grateful to her. She ran her committee with grace. She met with everyone, all the stakeholders, took into account all the frustrations and emotions from the different groups that we are responsible for, and her leadership is an example. I look forward to a fully green board.
To the author of the bill, Representative Herr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, members. I'm just going to take this time to say a couple of thank yous because this is a really good bill and it is a bipartisan bill. I want to first say thank you to Lead O'Driscoll, who has, at any time that I needed to have a conversation, needed to bounce off ideas, needed to figure out how to navigate something, he was always there to do that, and I really appreciate his leadership and his partnership in this work. Representative Nadeau, who I always appreciate your rabbit holes because I don't know where it's going to go, but it does sometimes lead us to some really great things. And truthfully, I think that sometimes when we look at when something isn't successful or that we don't fund something, we think of that as a failure. But Representative Nadeau's work was such a success because it showed people that we were willing to invest and explore every option and turn over every rock. And it takes a great deal of courage and a great deal of persistence in order to do that kind of work. And so I really appreciate you for your commitment. To all of our members on our side here, Representative Cha, Representative Berg, Representative Wilgamont, who sometimes I forget he's on the commission, and then I tell him he's not a member and I have to move his bill, but that's not true. So, you know, that your commitment, it was because you were willing to show up and to fight for workers that we were able to do the work that we did. And I don't think that any of our members actually missed one commission hearing. And I left Representative Nelson off of this because I wanted to say a special thank you to Representative Nelson, because this is his last year with us, and he is the really the glue that holds us, well, with Representative O'Driscoll. I don't want to just say there's one glue, there's a lot of glue, but he's the one who I relied on for historical data and information, and we all know that pensions, it's not something you make a decision at one point in time. There's ripple effects forever, and that the fact that Representative Nelson was there to actually provide that leadership and that guidance and that support, that I so greatly appreciate you, and we will miss you in the commission when you are no longer here with us. And so we are a better state because you served on this commission with us. I also just want to say thank you to our Senate members. I do know that some of our Republican members traveled a great deal, and Senator Nelson said to me, I dreaded doing this in the beginning, but I'm so glad I'm a part of this, and I come every week ready to work at 8:30 in the morning, and that was the biggest compliment I think I could have ever received from somebody who has to travel a long ways, who has to give up time with their family, but really did this hard work with us. And so I wanted to just thank our Senate counterparts, Senator Pappas, Seeberger, Westland, Nelson, Hout, and Rasmussen. I want to thank our staff, nonpartisan staff, Executive Director Susan Linchesky, Deputy Director Sean Kelly, Commission Assistant Lisa Deslin, partisan staff, Nick Stumolanger, who literally is like my right arm. I don't know what I would do without him. He helps me remember the million things that was coming into this work. John Baylor, who, I don't think I say John's name right, but John, who is our DFL researcher, and Ryan Majerus, who is the Senate DFL researcher, to our plan directors, who I make them meet with me frequently. They come in whenever we need to speak. I meet weekly with some of them, to Executive Director Doug Anderson from PARA Legislative Liaison Amy Strenge, MSRS Executive Director Aaron Leonard, MSRS Legislative Liaison Jenkins Vaughn, TRA Executive Director Jay Stoffel, TRA Deputy Director Tim Maurer, TRA Legislative Liaison Holly Dayton, TRA Legal and Legislative Director Rachel Barth, St. Paul Teacher Retirement Fund Association Executive Director Phil Tensick, and also just the last two, our policy advisors Simone Ferson and MMB Executive Director Tom Carr. It is because of this ginormous team that we were able to run such a great commission, and like Representative Berg said, We fought really hard to make this really meaningful work, and 3 years in a row we received targets. I cannot be more proud of a product. When we had such little money, we did some really fantastic work, and the policy changes that we made will have great impact on our workers and our pension members here in the state of Minnesota. Members, I ask for your green vote to support this fantastic bipartisan bicameral bill. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The chief clerk will call the names of the members voting remotely.
Carroll.
Carroll, aye.
Carroll, aye. Howard.
Howard votes aye.
Howard, aye. Cagle.
Cagle, aye.
Cagle, aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 130 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and is title agreed to.